If you own a 2006 to 2012 Toyota Rav4 and you've got that rattling sound coming from your muffler, it's an easy fix. You don't have to pay a lot of money to get it done, and we're going to do it right now. For this repair, you're going to need some good clearance underneath the vehicle. And this is easy for me because I have a lift. I'll put a link to the lift below, and I'll make a video on that soon. But this is totally doable with a set of ramps or a jack and some jack stands. Once you're underneath and before you start ripping things out, double check, inspect your muffler. Does it have holes? Is it rattling when you hit it? Does the rattling stop when you push up on it as the car's idling? All these things were true for me, and so I'm going to swap this thing out. Changing it out is actually pretty easy. You're going to just have to deal with some bolts that are likely going to be rusted, and you will have to cut the pipe. This muffler is welded onto the rear cat, and so the aftermarket options like this don't have that flange. You'll have to cut it. But if you look at the documentation, you should have some instructions as to where to make that cut. Here it's 3.5 inches behind the cat, and that's where I'm going to make my cut. If your aftermarket muffler does not come with these specifications, then you're just going to have to place the new one up alongside the original one to kind of get an idea of where you want to make that cut. For me, I marked back 3.5 inches from the rear cat, and this is going to line up perfectly. I found it easiest to just use a regular reciprocating saw with a nice, fresh metal blade. You'll want to make that cut as square as possible, as straight as possible, so take your time with it. Also, you'll want to support the front part of this exhaust system. So I used a heavy-duty zip tie, and it was sufficient to keep that from sagging. Next, you'll turn your attention to the flange that holds the muffler on to the tailpipe, the resonator and the tailpipe. Make sure you spray it down well with some PB Blaster and let it soak for a while. If it's original, it'll be 14 millimeters, and they're going to be stuck on there pretty tight. In retrospect, I should have just cut them both off, but I tried backing them out. And you see here I had to use a breaker bar to move that out slowly. Once I got to the other side, it wasn't going anywhere. It was rounded off, so rusty. So I used that same recip saw and cut right through it. You're going to want to use new hardware anyway. Just make sure you take caution not to nick or damage the flange that is part of that tailpipe section. With this part disconnected, you can carefully rotate this tailpiece section downward and away to clear it and give yourself room to work. After that, all you have now is 3 rubber hangers to disconnect. Now you don't need this, but if you can get a hold of one, they're super cheap. I'll put a link below, and they make the job really easy, especially if you're working alone, where you're holding up the muffler with one hand and trying to take a hanger off with another. This tool allows you to push that pin right through and it comes out. But you can do this by hand the old school way. Now something's in front of my camera, I'm not sure what it is, so you don't get to see how unbelievably handsome I am. But up front there's 2 rubber hangers. You're going to take those off the same way. Once you do that, you can take this entire muffler section out and away from the vehicle. Before installing a new muffler, prepare this pipe that you cut with a file. Take a file and just make sure there's no burrs on both the inside and the outside of this pipe. Before lifting that muffler into place, I'm going to put this U-clamp on just to get it started so I don't have to mess with it while it's up there. Also make sure that those bolts are facing downward. Now the way I'm doing this here is as I lift the muffler into place, I'm going to couple those 2 pipes together up front. Use caution if you're going to do it this way, because if you let that weight of that muffler hang down, you might end up damaging the front part of your exhaust system. So if you're going to do it that way, make sure you keep that muffler steady. You can just get the muffler up onto the hangers first and then kind of wiggle those pipes together up front. Another thing I found that was easy, since I'm doing this by myself, is I got this back up with the original hangers, and they're softer and they're stretched out a bit. But once the muffler was in place, I went back and I individually changed out the 3 hangers for new ones. With the muffler suspended in place with 3 new rubber hangers, we're going to tighten down these bolts. I'm going to start with the U-bolt up front, and you're going to just tighten this down. You remember, you want this to be tight enough where it deforms the metal that's there and gets it so that you don't have any kind of leaks. So this really has to be tight. After that, we'll head to the back and we'll put these 2 sections together. Take a razor blade and scrape off any remnants of the old gasket. Take your new gasket, test fit it on both sides to make sure it's going to seat well. Now they do make a hardware kit for this application, for this vehicle, but for whatever reason, the threads aren't long enough for me to be comfortable in leaving it cinched down enough. So I used my own bolt and nut with the washer and spring that came with the kit. Make sure when you're tightening these two bolts down that you move from one to the other periodically. That'll ensure that the gasket seats properly and squishes the way it's supposed to. Once that's done, run your vehicle. Put your hand next to the coupling that you made up front with the U-joint and also this coupling in the back with the gasket. If you don't hear or feel any air escaping, you've got good seals and you are done. I like making these videos to show how easy it is to tackle some of these things on your own and of course to save money while doing it. I'll put links below to the items and tools I've used, and if you use my links, I will earn a whole 17 cents.